to Transcendental Transformation, the place where spirituality and transformation unite. Host Miss Raina imparts truth so that you can break through your limiting beliefs and evolve into a deeper consciousness. As you go about your day, remember, before every breakthrough, there is a breakdown. And now, let's start the show.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's episode of Transcendental Transformation. I'm your host, Miss Raina, and today is Tuesday. I almost said Saturday again. I don't know. It's been messing me up lately. Maybe I want it to be Saturday, but it's Tuesday, December 8th, and 2020. As always, we're coming live from the Sirius Star System studios right here in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and I hope all is well with everybody. So it is cold outside again, and yeah, it started to warm up a little bit, but tonight it is dropping down to 41 degrees, and I moved away from up north because I don't want the cold, and it's just way too cold, and but yeah, I got this is actually keeping me nice and warm. I was freezing in my house until I put this on, and it just blankets me. So but I think it's preparing me to go back home to Chicago for the holidays, and just kind of getting me used to that temperature. But no, you guys up north can keep your cold weather. I've had about enough of it, and yeah, that's the way it's gonna go. But you know, guys, there is a lot of you that have been reaching out to me over the past several weeks and wondering what is going on, because it is chaotic, isn't it? Everything seems to be falling apart. Everything seems to be up and down, your emotions, and everyone is scattered. Well, there's a shift going on right now, and in order for this shift that's going on towards the end of the year to welcome in the new year, a lot of things are needed to be dumped. And so, yes, you're going to feel a little bit more on edge. You're going to feel a little bit more kind of scattered brain, kind of things are going to annoy you a little bit more. But just take a deep breath, relax, allow things to fall apart. Don't make any rash decisions and judgments, and just allow it to happen, and just allow things that are no longer needed to fall away. And, you know, because it's one of those things where if you start allowing your emotions and the chaos and the scatteredness to get the best of you, then what's going to happen is that's what's going to be in your life at the moment. So I know right now it seems like it's all chaotic, and I know a lot of you are frustrated because of this past year and everything, but you got to learn to develop a little bit more patience in this area, and just let go of the frustration, and just allow yourself to be all over right now, because you'll come back to same place as once. But all right, guys, don't forget, we have a clothes drive for the homeless and families in need, December 19th. Please go to our GoFundMe account and donate money, or reach out to Caleb or myself, or on either Facebook or on our personal stuff at Facebook is Spirit Communities, and please get in touch with us to donate clothes, blankets, socks, shoes, anything, especially jackets and pants and stuff. For I know it's not as cold as northerners, but for us this is cold, and there's a lot of people that don't have blankets or anything, and they are freezing on nights like tonight. So it would really be grateful if you can donate blankets and jackets and hats and gloves and different things like that. As always, guys, we are coming live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, not Twitter, I always say Twitter, Twitch, Periscope, LinkedIn, and Daily Motion. Caleb is on there. He is back for the week, and he will be talking to you and chatting with you. If you guys have any questions, hit him up and he will relay the question to me. And as always, the replays will be in the link in the description below. So I want to get into, because we got a lot to cover this today, and I want to recap last week a little bit. We ended with talking about old souls and how they live in voice and enjoy sharing the knowledge, and they struggle on a very deep level of empathy and sadness, and often falter to this idea of depression. And because now we're learning emotions for the first time, we're learning this thing that we call emotions in such a way where we're trying to understand it. And because we're so involved into the heart chakra area and the heart area and the emotional upsets and the emotions that we haven't learned to deal with in our past evolution period, now all of a sudden this is all coming to us, and we see the world, we see ourselves, we see what's going going on and it hurts us. And even our past lives hurts us because now we're being faced with all the trauma and the truths of everything that's going on. And this is why karma comes into play, because in order for us to gain emotional depth, in order for us to evolve, we have to understand our past lives. We have to have that understanding. We have to learn about our past mistakes, or I don't like to call them mistakes, but I know we do, but the things that we have caused chaos, we have to learn about those things. And we have to realize the things that we've made a mess out of, the things that we've hurt people, the chaos that we've caused each other. And this a lot of times sets old souls into this really chaotic emotional turmoil that they have to learn to battle through. And this is why for a lot of times they feel the need to speak, because the need to speak to the world is very hard for them, because they're trying to exercise that emotion, that energy out of them, but no one listens. And this is something that's very hard for old souls to understand, because yes, when you start getting to be an old soul, an elder old, and an ancient soul, you realize nobody listens. Nobody listens to you. Everybody knows everything, because elder adults all the way down, they know it all. You can't tell them everything, because they're stuck in their belief systems, they're stuck in their ways, and no matter what you say to them, it goes in one ear and out the other. And this is very hard, because at an emotional level, you old souls are trying to gain respect and trying to understand who you are and trying to evolve through that emotional understanding so that you can come back in unity. But since no one's listening to you, you feel undervalued, you feel a lack of respect. And this is something that knowledge has evolving has to take time and to have to take part into that type of idea, because knowledge, yes, we start to gain knowledge, but you have to become the knowledge in order for you to be able to speak it properly. And that's one of the things that old souls do. Or don't do well. And so old souls have to learn the mastery of emotions on a heavy level. And as I said, that this often causes them to be suicidal. This is the second most group out of all the domes that commit suicide the most, because again, the world is depressing to them. They're experiencing their emotions for the first time and really being face to face with it. And because it's such in their face and they don't know how to deal with it, it becomes sometimes overwhelming, and this is why they repeat that cycle so many times. And there's a lot of sad, depressed old souls out there kind of have that attitude of hopelessness and defeatist attitude, and the poor me syndrome follows there. And it's really hard for a lot of old souls to understand that and see their own reflection, because they're caught up in their own emotions and their own chaos. They can't see their own reflection as far as that type of idea. And so what they do is they end up being alienated, because they're starting to separate themselves from the other domes, because now we're reaching a level of evolution that starts to separate from belief systems into evolution, and now we don't fit in anymore. And this is something that's very hard for the old souls to understand. So with the age of old soul, or with the old souls, they have to learn to speak with inspiration. They have to learn to get out of the emotions, get out of their pity party, and understand that they're gaining knowledge, that they don't have to rush to be the teachers, because that's the way they feel. So, all right, guys, let's get into the conclusion of The Age of All Souls Part 3, because this is, as I titled this before, The Truth of the Soul's Light. And I don't often throw around the word light, because we have a misunderstanding of the word light. As you know, if you've been following this show for a long time, we always think that God and the universe and everything that's good and happy and healthy is light, and everything that's bad and evil and chaotic is dark. And we know that that's not true. So when I say the soul's light, I don't mean that we're light souls and bright souls and we're that. It's a different meaning, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But when the soul starts to evolve from old soul, it starts to evolve into an elder old, and then the elder old soul evolves into the ancient soul. When you get into the elder old and ancient soul, you are no longer ruled by emotion and ego. That is not meaning that you don't have emotion. That is not meaning that you don't have ego, because the ego is healthy, and you use the emotional capabilities that we as humans take on to understand and fully develop who you are in order to help the world and in order to be able to create what you want. And this is a technique, and this is a technique that a lot of people from old soul down don't understand. This is something that has to evolve, and this is why for so many of you, if you're not in the elder old soul or ancient soul, this is why emotions ravage you and create so much chaos, and because there's not an emotional understanding. And unfortunately, there are so many of you that have to go through all this chaos in order to evolve until you get to this point. But I promise you this, one time in the future, and I don't know what your future is, but one time in the future, maybe 1,000 lives, 100 lives, 10,000 lives, depending on where you're at, 200,000 lives, depending on where you're at, eventually you will evolve to this point. And so even though it seems like the world sucks and coming here sucks, and you're just so caught up in chaos and emotion, eventually that will learn to dissolve as you learn to evolve. But if you don't learn to evolve, then and you fight it, then what you're going to do is keep coming back and being stuck in that area. So elder souls and ancient souls are no longer ruled by emotion, because they have gone through it. They have worked through it, and they have evolved to be able to understand that emotions aren't real. They're not real. It's energy. It's data that's coming in for us to understand how we are perceiving our experiences. And that is the biggest thing that elder, old, and ancient souls understand, because they're like, wow, emotions really aren't real. They aren't real. They are just energy. It is information being transferred, and that's really all life is. Everything is information, right? When you touch something, you're feeling it, you're getting information. Wow, this microphone stand is hard, it's metal, it's this and that. Oh, this mouse is plastic, it's this, because you're gathering data. And that's the most wonderful thing. And when you become an elder soul and an ancient soul, we have one of the biggest things that we have to understand is we're no longer seeking the same internal and external factors that we used to chase throughout our evolution. And that is a wonderful thing, because now you're letting go of a lot of different things. And when we're letting go of those things, this leaves time and room for more knowledge, for more understanding of who we are, because we're no longer caught up in trivial things like belief systems and ego and chasing ourselves of our self-worth and everything, because now we become stronger. And so one of the things that people ask me a lot of times is, well, do we become these all-knowing beings that many stories have written about? And the answer to that is kind of a two-part answer, and I'm not going to really say yes, and I'm not really going to say no, because what does an all-knowing being mean? What does an all-knowing being? I think our idea of this of where we're at in our evolution, because we place these ideas of gods and goddesses and all this stuff as these enlightened beings, that's the pinnacle of what we're supposed to get to, that we think that we're supposed to be all-knowing. But truth be told, yes, ancient souls, especially blue souls, know a lot, but still not everything, especially when we come incarnated here. Remember, every soul, no matter if you're at the tippy top of the ancient souls, blue, or if you're at the beginning of the you soul, and that you get your mind wiped just like everybody else. And that's one of the things that you have to understand, is that no matter where you're at in your evolution, we all have to relearn all this stuff all over. True, when you get to be an ancient soul, an elder soul, and an old soul, you start to have these memories of your past and everything coming in. You start to have these experiences working with spirit guides, and you guys sometimes will call them angels and everything like that. But and these beings over there, and you'll have that connection that's deeper. But one of the things that I think that people are asking when they ask that question is about balance. Are we going to have balance? Are we, if we're all knowing and we finally got through the emotions, then we must have balance, right? Well, that's the idea that we start to chase when we're an adult soul. Remember back in the day a couple weeks ago or a week ago, when I started saying about the adult souls, how we chase things, how we start because we are without and we have to get things and believe in things in order to make us feel safe and cozy. But this idea starts to where we start to chase all the way from adult to elder old. And this is a hard thing for us to achieve because in any soul, in any dome, we don't really have an understanding of balance. We think of balance as homeostasis, especially in medicine or anything. You think of balance, you think of something that's perfectly balanced, that's teetering, that doesn't weigh more. But life isn't like that. Life is constantly and up and down all over the place. Think of a roller coaster, the craziest roller coaster that you can possibly imagine. Well, that is what life is. There's no such thing as life that perfectly holds still like this, and one side's light and good and one side's dark, and if you tip one way it doesn't work like that. Life is always, as long as you're coming here, and even if you're a ancient blue soul, you're always tested, you always have challenges, you're always trying to learn something, because that is it's how you handle it. And how you understand the information is what really drives you forward. So we have to look at this idea of balance and say we have to get past this concept, because what we believe to be balance or to be all-knowing, to be enlightened is not really true. It doesn't hold true, and we have to be able to say, well, let's get away from trying to be these ideas. Instead of trying to be the all-knowing and the enlightened one and the balanced one and the positive one, why don't we just be ourselves, and why don't we just learn to deal with what we have to do? And so because a lot of us, if I asked you, well, if you understood, if you achieved balance, would you know it? And you would say probably no, or some of you would say, yeah, well, because I'm happy all the time and I have no more problems. Well, that's not balance. Because if you understood balance, that means there's a yin and there's a yang. There's a light to a dark. There's a day to a night. There's a masculine to a feminine. There's always that thing. So they have to play on each other. And there's always a cycle. It's not being happy all the time with no problems. And if that's our idea of being balanced, then that is why we struggle to survive in our emotions and our understanding of who we are, is because we're turning our backs on a cycle. Remember, things in this life are not separate. They're all one. Everything is unified. Everything, and we come here separated to understand duality, to bring us back to unity. And that's the hardest thing for us to understand, because we think of all these concepts that have been told to us, and instead of learning them, we just believe what others are told. And when you become an elder old soul, then all of a sudden you start to realize, you're like, wow, I've gone through this emotional chaos. I've dumped and no longer need and feel guilty to all this stuff. And now I understand that this is data. And you start to realize that balance doesn't exist. This idea of perfection doesn't exist. The way we think at the points all of a sudden is false. And everything in this world is just a false creation to confuse us and to throw us off, to teach us the lessons that we need to do so that we can create in a duality form, so that we can learn to come back to one. Because the only way we learn is through pain and suffering and perspective, and to learn and share and gain knowledge of every different way we can experience things. That is what we are doing. And when we're not doing that, and we're chasing these ideas of being balanced and happy and enlightenment and following this God and following this Savior, and then what we're doing is we're creating chaos. That is why, if you ever notice somebody who believes in something so hard, whether it's religion or spirituality, you ever notice as hard as they try, they're always lacking in some area, in self-worth, or they can't ever control their emotions. They can't ever that, because they're trying to fool themselves into believing these things exist, because they're so afraid to work on themselves that they put their head in the sand and think, well, if I believe in this religion, then this is going to save me. If I believe in this spirituality, this is going to save me. If I believe in these things, well, this is going to give me what I need. And it's not until we reach the elder old that we realize none of this stuff gives me anything. The only thing that gives me what I need is myself. And this is that achievement that we have to go through, because we haven't learned these concepts. So now we're at a whole new idea, because balance is out the door. We don't need to learn it anymore. We've chased it a lot when we're in these younger domes, and we've gained so much chaos, but we've gained so much knowledge at the same time that it becomes chaotic. And so now we're saying, hey, we don't need this anymore. What concepts do we really need? Where in our life, where in my evolution, what do I need to learn in this lifetime for my personal growth, not what others teach us? All right, guys, we'll be right back after these messages from I Am Evolution.
The human experience is changing, and consciousness is evolving into something higher than any of us could ever imagine. As we transform into more sentient beings, a new world of connected consciousness is taking place. Welcome to I Am Evolution, the movement in human development that transforms the human experience into a deeper consciousness through perspective and duality. Are you ready to be a part of the next stage in human evolution? Call I Am Evolution today to schedule your appointment at 561-318-0006. That's 561-318-0006. Or email us at iamevolution@protonmail.com.
All right, everybody, we are back, and we are talking about elder old souls. And right now we're talking about the domes of or the understanding of balance. And so we let go of this idea to achieve balance, because when we're emotional, we think that this idea of balance is going to quiet our emotions. But these ideas are false, because nothing can quiet our emotions until we have an understanding of it. Remember, this data that comes in, and the elder old soul starts to understand that. They start saying, hey, you know what? I've resolved, because as an old soul, I start to resolve my anger. I start to resolve my grief. I start to resolve my guilt. And an adult soul, or an elder adult soul, or even a young soul and an old soul, they have a hard time with this, because an adult soul, a young adult, and an elder adult don't have any emotional understanding whatsoever. And so they are ruled by their emotions. They are ruled by anger, greed, and guilt. And that's what drives them. That's their whole ego drives them. And so the elder old soul starts to look at that and starts to say, okay, well, in order for me to understand this point of view, I have to look at the other domes and my own past at the same time in order for me to gain knowledge of the present moment. And so they start consuming themselves with understanding every lesson, because this is something that carries out even until ancient souls that are blues, because there's white and blue, and we'll get into why the ancient soul bracket is broken down into two. And so they start to consume themselves. They start to say, wow, I have a lot to learn. They realize that, you know what, I've gone through all this emotional understanding, but I still don't know anything. And this is where the true knowledge, the true test of everybody, the soul and the spirit start to come in, because now they're saying, wow, I really don't understand everything. So I have to understand every lesson that's going on. I have to understand it within myself, and I have to start to recognize that I'm responsible. Because let's be honest with you, or let's be honest with ourselves, is how responsible are you with your own life? Do you admit to the things that you do? Are you responsible in every aspect of your life? Are you responsible by being truthful and honest and loyal and all these things? No. Because a lot of us, we cower to our emotions, we cower to our fears. We don't want to hurt someone's feelings, so we lie to them. We don't want to say the truth, so we lie to them. And we do this, and when something goes wrong or we get upset, we blame the other person instead of starting to say, hey, well, the elder old soul starts to understand this. They say, hey, you know what? It's not a blame game anymore. It's my responsibility. We agreed upon these lessons, and this is what I have to do in order for me to understand this. I have to evolve. I have to put myself through this experience and understand it again. I have to understand the lesson that's going on right now. And this is why we falter. If those of you that are watching this show, if you struggle with something, truly struggle with something, and you just can't get past it, it's because you're not taking responsibility for it. It may seem like it's everybody else's fault. It may seem like somebody did you wrong and hurt you and all that, but that's because you're looking at it from an emotional, narrow point of view. Until you start saying, okay, well, what role did I have in this thing? Well, how was I responsible? Well, the warning signs for this relationship or this friendship or this and that were there. But I still ignored it because I maybe was lonely, or I wanted a friend, or I just thought this person was cool and I idolized them. And I mean, there's many reasons, and you shouldn't be ashamed of it, because you were there for a specific reason with a person so that you could learn to do what you need to do. Unfortunately, then we victimize ourselves and we start to put the blame. And because we think that people are doing stuff to us instead of teaching us stuff, and that's the trick, because an elder old soul, they start saying, you know what? No one's doing anything to me. I'm doing this to me because I've agreed upon this. I've agreed upon this concept with others, with other people, with other beings, and that we agreed upon this. And this person is teaching me something. And if you can learn to start taking the lessons out of it and stop victimizing yourself and stop beating yourself up, well then, hey, you're gonna start evolving. And I don't care if you're an adult soul or a young adult. The young adult souls won't listen to this show, and probably adult shows won't listen to this show as well. But yeah, if you hear this, well then, and you want to start advancing, well then start accepting responsibility. No matter what situation it is, start taking responsibility for everything. How you act, how you talk. If you're truthful, the next time your friend calls up and you go to lie to them, speak the truth instead. Yeah, I mean, there's so many ways, and that's why all this information is saved for the last two sets of domes. You have to evolve from not understanding anything to being mean and nasty and hurtful and murdering and raping and all that stuff, to trying to get to an egotistical and greedy. You have to evolve through all these domes, because remember, they're circular. If you don't know what I'm talking about, listen to Age of All Souls Part 1 and 2 and you'll understand. But remember, it's not linear, it's circular. So in order for us with these last two domes, technically, we have to be able to go through all that in order for us to understand that, because we're faced with our emotions. We're confronted with it in a different understanding. And if you're not understanding what you're going through, well, then that's because you're not facing it. You're running away from it. Elder old souls and ancient souls do not run away from their emotions. They do not run away from the things that have happened. They can't. They are confronted with it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, because it's not like as a punishment. It's just that, hey, you know, we have to deal with this. And through my life, and you know, Caleb and I were talking about this the other day, and we were, you know, and I was saying, well, you don't, you know, one of the things, you think that I just do the show or I do this, and no, I think about things. I you know, I go through things that are going on. I reevaluate, I re-experience during meditations. I go back and relive those things and see things from a different perspective. And I face those emotions. I face those understands, I face that experiences so that I can gain different perspective. And that's a 24-hour a day. Even right now, as I'm doing the show and I'm talking to you, part of me is analyzing what I'm saying and how I'm saying it and seeing if I need to say something else or present something in a different way. And that's how I channel. That's how I do what I do. Because some people are like, wow, Miss Raina, you talk really fast and then you can just keep going and say, well, that's because I'm doing two different things at one time. And it's not until you get to an elder old soul, well, actually ancient souls really do it, but it's not until you start to realize that, hey, man, I can start experiencing many things at once and still be knowledgeable and still be in tune with all of them at once. Because we have an idea of separation in this world. We think that we can only handle one or two things at a time. But truth be told, you can handle many things. If you can expand your consciousness, and this doesn't happen until you're an elder old soul and above, but when you get to that point, you will expand your consciousness and be able to handle 15 things, 20 things at once, because you're able to understand energy. Remember, over there, when we're over on the other side back home, we can be anywhere and everywhere in the universe all at once, and multi-universes and everything all at once, and still paying attention to everything and hearing every detail of everything. Why? And this concept is hard because here we are such physical, dense, low energy beings that are focused on separation. And so this concept blows our mind a lot of times because we think that, hey, what's in front of us is what we can only experience. But we have to learn to re-experiencing these ideas. Elder old souls start to seek out a deep understanding. They have to seek this understanding out. They want wisdom. And not to go like old souls do, not to be like, hey, I want to tell everybody how great and wonderful I am. I want to share this knowledge because I'm seeking redemption. I'm seeking all these things. That's old soul and young old souls. But elder old souls start to say, you know what? I got to that emotional part. I want a deeper understanding of life. How can I understand what life is about? How can I understand what consciousness is about? And they don't care what's in books. They don't care what the world thinks. They don't care what everybody else does. They get the information from inside through their channeling, through everything. And that's something the elder soul has to learn to develop, is that channel, that channel that just brings all information. There are a lot of people who can meditate. Yes, there are a lot of people that can get information, but there's not a lot of people that can truly channel to the expansion part. And what I mean by the expansion part is truly be able to just be everywhere and anywhere all at once. And I know there's probably going to be people out there that are going to say, yeah, of course I did it. But that is very, very rare. There's a lot of people. I mean, that's very, very rare that people can do that. And there's only a small percentage of the population, and we'll get into why I say that can do that. But you have to be able to start going towards that. If you feel that drive, if you feel that pull, like you want to expand, well, then start expanding by starting to gain deeper knowledge. And this is for any dome. I don't care if you feel a drive to want knowledge to grow, then start trying to gather a deep understanding of life. Start trying to expand your wisdom. Who cares if you're right or wrong? Who cares if you're correct or not? It doesn't matter. Just try to learn what you can learn. And that will and that drive that you've been lacking, and because it is very hard for a lot of people to find that, will start to come about because you'll start to thirst for it, because it's almost addictive. It's like you just always want to grow. And that's how I am. People say I'm very passionate about what I do. Absolutely. Because I have a huge will and drive, but that comes from the thirst of wanting to grow through consciousness, and everyone out there is capable of having that. You have to be able to have this deep thirst of knowledge for you to be able to grow. If you think you know it all, if you think because you've heard it in every spiritual book and because you pray your hands and say namaste and click your fingers and all that stuff, then that's not growth. True growth is understanding wisdom. It's not just saying, hey, okay, karma does this. If I chant this, this is going to happen. Well, if you chant this, why do those words go to that idea? Do you have an understanding of it? That's what I mean, is you're trying to gather this knowledge and this wisdom of saying, I need to learn this. I need to start doing this. And elder old souls, start to disconnect from the world. They start to push back away from the problems and dramas. And as, like I said, in young souls, the connection to people become a little bit more difficult. So when you start to get to a young old soul and old soul, you start to separate from the rest of the world, and all of a sudden connection. And this is not from people feeling alienated because they're having emotional things like people with depression and that. This is a totally different thing. There are a lot of people, millions of people, that feel disconnected from the world, but that's because they have separated themselves from the world. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is a disconnection from the world because they're seeing things and they're experiencing their vibrations raising. It's not because they're stuck in a dense low vibration. That's so. But the old soul starts to lose that connection. They start to feel a little weird, and no one understands them, but they're not confused by this feeling anymore. An old soul starts to say, oh my God, I'm disconnecting. No one likes me anymore. Oh my God, this is the end of the world. So sad for me. Pity on me. The elder old soul starts to say, you know what? Yeah, I'm not connecting to people, but I kind of like it in a way, not for reasons like a lot of people do, because a lot of people that I talk to say, well, I don't want to be around people because they're stupid and they're dumb and they're rude and they're mean. This is a totally different way. You're coming from a place of more peace and compassion and understanding. You start to say, well, yes, I understand that those people have issues and challenges because we're all here to grow, but I have to start pushing away from that because remember, my main focus now is wisdom and knowledge and growth. And so I can't be confused. I can't be weighed down by people's dramas and issues anymore. So they start to separate themselves, but in a loving, caring way. It's not that, oh, screw the world type of attitude, it's not that, but they start to see that the problems of the world become less interesting. And so what I mean by that is when you're an elder old and an ancient soul, we see the problems of the world for what they really are. We see people for who they really are. But the fact of the matter is we don't get involved. That's why so many people ask me all the time, and I've seen it with other elder souls. You talk to some of the elder old souls and ancient souls around the world, and what do they say? Well, it's not our problem. And they try to teach you about those things, and they try to help you understand, because even though they know that the issues of the world are important to those people, it's not in their evolutionary point to be able to do that anymore. So they have to remove themselves. And all the people that need to go through that get caught up in that. And yes, we share love and compassion to everybody going through everything because, hey, we were once there too. But the problem is the world doesn't listen to people that were there. It's kind of like being young. When you're young and you're in your 20s, teens, and your grandparents used to say stuff to you and even your parents, and you blow them off because you knew everything and you're just like, whatever. It's the same thing. When you're an elder old soul and an ancient soul, you're like a parent and a grandparent, and no one listens to you because they're too young. They know it all. They're more worried about status and emotions and going to the mall and all that stuff. And so they start to look at that. And they start to look at people being faced with what they're being faced with instead of their actual instead of saying, oh, well, this person's mean and this person's a jerk and this is horrible. Like even all this stuff with COVID right now, we look at it and we say, hey, the world is going through something because not for the fact of a virus, but because they have to learn something altogether. All the adult souls, old souls, and all that, they have to learn. So elder souls and ancient souls get back and sit back, and we're not affected by it. And we sit back and we watch and we analyze and we look and we try to see how people are reacting, and we sit there. And then therefore, when the period of time comes out, then we'll help people evolve and deal with what they went through, because the world changed. The world is going through a huge evolutionary period, and it had to start with 2020. It'll roll into 2021, 2022, and everything's going to crumble. Everything's going to fall apart. And a lot of people who don't understand this are going to feel lost and scared, and it might get chaotic. But the elder, old, and ancient souls have come to help help the world evolve and help understand what those souls have gone through. And so they look at things with what people are being faced with, and they remove all that stuff. Elder souls realize that they've lived through too much. And this is something that even as we get older, even in age here, we realize, I've lived through all this. I don't care. If I wear sweatpants, out to the mall or out to the grocery store or whatever, who cares the way I look anymore? Because we realize at certain points that we've lived way too much, and it's not, it doesn't matter to us anymore. What matters to us is love and compassion and understanding. Patience is an issue with elder old souls. And this is something that they have to be able to get through. And I'm noticing that we're almost on a break. And honestly, I got so much to go. And I think what I'll do is I'll just get into to ancient souls, and maybe on a sessions I'll finish up the elder old souls on a sessions. But let's take a break, and we'll be right back after these messages from I Am Evolution.
The human experience is changing, and consciousness is evolving into something higher than any of us could ever imagine. As we transform into more sentient beings, a new world of connected consciousness is taking place. Welcome to I Am Evolution, the movement in human development that transforms the human experience into a deeper consciousness through perspective and duality. Are you ready to be a part of the next stage in human evolution? Call I Am Evolution today to schedule your appointment at 561-318-0006. That's 561-318-0006. Or email us at iamevolution@protonmail.com.
All right, everybody, we are back for the last part of The Age of All Souls, Part 3. And yes, there is a lot to this, everybody. There is so much to this, and it is just one of those ideas that eventually what we're going to do is we're going to break down the domes even more. And honestly, I could probably do probably 15 shows of each dome by themselves in order for us to understand, but they're so complicated, and but at the same time they make sense once you understand the domes. If even no matter where you're at in your evolution, if anybody who listens to this starts to understand the dome, they can start to understand who they are, why they're where they're at, why they have the lessons and the people that they date and all that stuff, why they're going through what they're going through. Because in order for them to evolve, they have to go through certain things. So let's get into ancient souls, because I know I said that there was 9 domes, and there are. And technically, if you the ancient souls are broken down into 2 domes. And so there's your 9. And they're broken down into the white ancient and the blue ancient. And ancient souls, the hardest thing that the ancient souls have to go through is they have to re-experience life on all levels. So they have to re-experience everything all over again. And so what does that mean? Because we're in a circle, and because we're closing the whole circle up, we have to experience everything all over in one life. And so as we incarnate, we have to go through so much. It is almost to the point where we never get a break. Our job is to reevaluate and understand the experience and lessons that we've gone through. And so we have to re-experience our past lives. We have to re-experience things that we have gone through. We have to experience things that we maybe haven't gone through in this life, but maybe in order to help somebody, we have to go through it to understand and to help them. And so even though I haven't gone through, even though there are things that, what ended up happening with a lot of my clients is I used to have to be able to, I would always know when certain clients are coming in, because I would be living about my day, and all of a sudden this type of lesson would come in, and I could feel that it wasn't my lesson, but at the same time I had to learn it. It was almost like taking constant CEU classes, if you can understand that. And so I would understand that every time I would have a certain experience, that a few days later, maybe a week later, a couple weeks later, all of a sudden I'd get a phone call or an email, or someone would reach out to me on social media and say, "Hey, Miss Raina, I would really like to to work with you and everything because this is what's going on. And then it would make sense because that's our job. Our job is to reevaluate and understand all experiences, lessons, because as ancient souls, our job is to teach. That is what we are here for. We come back and go through these lessons and experiences to try to understand them as much as possible, but the end result is for us to teach. So if we look at the white dome, if we look at the first part of ancient soul, the white dome, they must learn and experience the lessons. So think of this as if you were trying to work on your PhD in your college. You're bombarded with work. You're preparing for knowledge to teach. You're not a teacher yet. You're trying to get all you're trying to write your paper and everything like that, and you're trying to get all that stuff, all those end stuff to prepare yourself to be that teacher, to be that doctor, to be whatever. And so you have to do all those research papers. You have to understand that. You have to show to the teachers that you understand this knowledge before they can graduate you. And that's exactly what you're doing. So you're taking all the other 8 domes that you have to learn, and you're going through this over and over, and you're expected to be able to break things down. Because in order for us to teach, the reason why we're stuck on a lot of things that we can't evolve through is because we don't know how to break it down. Most of the people, if they learn how to break things down and pick it apart and really take it and just analyze everything and really try to see what we can get through each of our emotions and each of our experiences, then all of a sudden we'll learn to understand it, and it won't bother us anymore, and we really get that concept. But because we don't take our time to learn, and we're waiting for a god or goddess or a universe to save us, and we're just so caught up in being a victim, we don't know how to break things down. And so the job of the white ancient soul is to learn how to break things down. Hey, okay, I'm not a teacher yet. I'm not a blue, but when I become a blue, I need to know how to do this. If I go out there and I can't understand this, then how am I going to help people? How am I going to help humanity evolve? How am I going to teach them things? And so they have to start being able to pick apart experiences. And this is not just gaining perspective. So this is not just the idea of, oh, let me live this life and this life and this life. This is, okay, let me take apart this experience, this idea, and all these experiences, and then pick them apart, break it all down, almost like as if you're taking apart a computer. When I was really young, I took apart one of my dad's Apple computers. Remember the big Apple computers with the green screen? Well, one day I was in the basement. I said, oh, let's see what this is. And I took my dad's screwdrivers and I took it apart. I laid all the pieces. My dad was so pissed. Oops, I just swore. My dad was so mad. And he was just, and he was like, what are you doing? And I was like, oh, don't worry. And he's like, you better get that. And believe it or not, I put it back together, because what I did was, in my mind, I was realizing why these pieces were there. Even though I had no concept of the knowledge at the time of technology, I could understand the pieces and the parts. And that's really what you're doing as a white ancient soul, is you're breaking things down. And the blue domes, like I said, you're tested first. So after you graduate from white into blue, now you're being tested, and then you teach. You're going to be thrown into the emotions. You're going to be thrown into the fire. You're going to be thrown into the hardest of situations to see if you can find your way out, to see if you can take everything apart, put it back together, go through the emotions, understand the people, understand what they're going through, and then put it back together. The blue energy of an ancient soul, and same with the white, but the blue, are very, very strong. And this is why a lot of times they can seem very fiery, their energy can come across a lot of times as very intimidating. Because when a strong, confident, high vibrational energy is what it is, lower vibrational energies a lot of times see that as a threat, because they think it's so powerful. They don't understand and grasp that type of strength yet, and so they become intimidated by them. And they, unfortunately, a lot of times, one of the things that ancient souls, both white and blue, have to deal with is a lot of people hating them for no reason. Like, people just don't like you, or you got half the people that just attract you and suck to you, and you got this other part that just is so afraid of you because they don't understand you. And so people that are trying to make a jump but don't know how will come after you and just, oh, hey, doom, and just hook onto you like life and death. And the people that don't want to grow and are really low vibration and really young in the domes and stuff will see you as a threat, and also because they don't understand the energy. And so they have to understand that at their core, that even though they seem fiery, even though ancient souls seem fiery, they have a lot of understanding and patience. It may not seem like it because sometimes they have that passion and they have that energy, and when they're passionate about something, that's no holds bars, they're going to go and tackle it. But if you actually sit down with them and talk with them and that they are very understanding and patient. But even in the midst of fiery, like I said, they are very passionate and driven because they are meant to help and teach people, but in a loving and compassionate way. And they try to teach that for others to understand, even though they know that a lot of people aren't going to get that concept because it sounds very, in today's world, we call it new agey or woo woo. And we think, oh, here's another spiritual person teaching about love and compassion. But no, there's nothing spiritual about what we do. We don't get into spirituality. We don't get into religion. We don't get into any of that. We teach about life. Life is about understanding. Life is about growth. Life is about evolving. Life is about these ideas of love and compassion. And the reason why love and compassion and these things seem new agey and spiritual and stuff is because at that point of your evolution, you're trying to understand it, but you don't get the concepts yet. And for people that don't want love and compassion, they're going to bash all that stuff. So they have to be able to understand that. And so when you're young, especially when they come in, ancient soul comes in, sometimes they are sometimes one of two ways. Either they can be very understanding of everything, or if they have a specific job to do, they come with this excitability, fire ability, and sometimes they can't manage it. And that comes out as sometimes even as what we call ADHD now and everything like that, but it's in a different way. The children are very, like, I was very fiery as a child. Sometimes because I couldn't understand my own energy, it would come out in destructive ways, not like hurting people or anything like that, but just I would just get so upset at something that I'd start crying, and then I'd throw something because I needed to get that energy out because I didn't know how to express it when I was a child. And so I had to relearn how to manage that energy and how to evolve that energy into useful. And that's what a lot of us struggle with. It doesn't matter if you're an ancient soul or an old soul or whatever. A lot of us struggle with understanding energy and how to use it productively, because that's what happens when we get angry, right? We get so angry sometimes that we just get so mad that we just blow up, and we just end up doing things that we regret later. And so that ends up happening. And so you have to learn how to use that productively. You have to learn to channel that energy into something really productive. But the difficult things that the young blues do, besides their passion and stuff, is their passion is they want people to succeed. And this comes across sometimes as very tough, because we understand what it takes to get through to issues, and especially in today's world where we're becoming a little oversensitive. And of course that's lessons in itself, and we'll get into that at another show. But we understand what it takes to get through to the next level, to get through to evolution, and to get through our chaos and our pain and suffering. And so we have that passion, that fiery, to be able to back someone and support someone and push them through. And to younger souls, that seems like it's being tough and mean or tough and to the there. But pushing someone when they're ready to go through that allows them to create that healing and evolution in their own experience. And so that's very difficult for a lot of people to understand. And sometimes, we understand that we have to be the bad guys, even though we're not bad guys or bad women, bad whatever you want to say, but we'll take on those roles because we understand there's no good, bad, right, wrong, positive, negative, backwards, forwards, but we'll take on whatever role we need to do to help that person evolve, even if it means that person is mad at us for the rest of their life or whatever. Whatever we have to be, we'll be able to understand that. And that's why sometimes people have a hard time with us, is because they don't understand that energy. Because remember, 90% of the world is between elder adult soul and young adult, and so they don't understand that type of energy. And so not understanding what that brings about judgment, being disliked. And when you're young, it can be very difficult for an ancient soul to understand that. Well, why am I disliked for being who I am? I don't get why I'm disliked. Why do people come up to me, say hi to me, and then the next day later, all of a sudden they avoid me, and I don't know why. And this is probably the most misunderstood out of all the domes. And they have to be able to understand that and take that. So, all right, guys, I think we got a couple minutes, and let's go over one more thing before we do this, because again, there's so much, and there's never enough time. But one of the last things for ancient souls, white and blue, is it's very hard. It's life. We love very deeply. Everything is full of passion. It's a very deep love. No matter who out there dislikes me, who dislikes the show that I do, or whatever, I still love all of you, and I still love everybody and every experience that I've had. Because when we start to understand on that level of true understanding and true unity and true consciousness, then we can't be a point of hate and that, because hate doesn't really exist. It's just a lack of understanding. But the compassion is always there for everybody, and even myself. Hey, we always think that at this point of our evolution we should be perfect. As long as you incarnate as a human, you will always have faults, you will always have errors, and you will never, because in order for us to grow, in order for us to learn stuff, we have to go through that experience. And that means being blinded just like everybody else, faltering just like everybody else. But the fact of the matter is that we combat it with compassion and love and understanding, instead of anger, jealousy, ego. And we try to understand and say, okay, this is the lesson at hand, this is what we have to learn. And then we grow, and as we evolve, we start to recall those lessons, start to recall that information, and we start to teach that information to everybody else. And that's something that is really, really when we're in the white dome, when we're in the white dome, that is something that has to be learned. In order for you to start teaching, you have to understand those type of lessons and be able to pull that stuff in order for you to be able to teach. So, all right, guys, I think I'm going to end there, because I have a bunch of stuff still left over, and rather than rattled off, maybe what I'll do is on the next sessions or sessions after that, maybe what I'll do is just kind of touch up on the things that I didn't touch about, and see where it goes. But anyways, guys, I really hope you guys enjoyed tonight's show. I know it seems like a lot of information, like all the shows we do, but that's why they're on video and the website and everything, because you can always listen to them over and over and hear things that you didn't hear before, and come to a deeper understanding. But if you really enjoyed tonight's show, please share it with people. The only way we're going to help other people and reach other people is by you. So please just take a moment and share it on your social media, or share it with somebody, send an email, whatever, and help us grow as well. So, all right, guys, follow us on our Facebook at facebook.com/Transcendental Transformation. Our YouTube is Transcendental Transformation Radio Show. Sign up for my website, soulandspiritguide.com, and sign up to receive for the newsletter to receive hidden shows, VIP access, and special guest offers from the guests. And if you have any questions, email me at transcendentaltransformations@gmail.com. All this information will be in the link below. And always remember to believe in yourself, and it's not our abilities or our talents that make us who we are, but it is our choices. Thank you, and have a wonderful evening.